ready.
Here are some more examples of road riding on a different course. Bill is signaling a right turn from Marshall Avenue onto Lidditz Pike. He rides in the center of the lane because, as you can see, the right side has very poor pavement. We don't take a shortcut through the restaurant parking lot. That is illegal and is usually unsafe. Once on Lidditz Pike, we ride just to the right of the edge stripe, which is 4 feet from the curb, allowing traffic to overtake without changing lanes, but keeping us far enough from the curb. We look back, signal, and move to the rightmost through lane to avoid traffic bound for Oregon Pike, which angles off to the right. The lanes here are too narrow to share, so we ride in the middle.
Go.
Once past the intersection, we move slightly to the right to allow cars backed up behind us to get by, but then we move slightly left because there is no shoulder alongside the white building. We're preparing to turn left about a block ahead onto Glen Moore. We have to cross 2 lanes to reach the center left turn lane, so we scan, and even though both lanes are clear, we change 1 lane at a time to get into the center left turn lane essentially in 1 step rather than 1 lane at a time. We have several oncoming cars to yield to before turning, and we have to keep an eye on the white car coming out of Glen Moore to make sure it doesn't start up while we're still in the intersection. Remember that the more lanes you have to cross, the more time you must allow. Sometimes this turn is very easy though, because the signal a quarter of a mile back creates big gaps in the traffic. Be aware of poor sight lines, such as into the street to the right here, even though it is in a relatively quiet residential area. Here we're going downhill quite fast, but we can just let it out and coast because the sight lines are clear. Here we're about to turn right onto Fruitville Pike from Maple Lane. We will have about half a block to cross 2 lanes and get into the left turn lane. We scan, let 1 car go by, then make our lane changes. The light is green, but there is oncoming traffic we must yield to. Keep well clear of the sides of large trucks. They make wide right turns. Bill rises off the saddle at another railroad track. Here we wait behind a long string of cars because we want to turn left and we don't know which way the traffic in the right lane is going to go.
Yep.
We approach a severely angled crossing.
Diagonal tracks.
We need to time a merge and cross nearly at a right angle to avoid getting a wheel caught in the flange wheel. That can dump you on the pavement in a flash. We're on Harrisburg Avenue approaching Prince Street. We look back, signal, and move into the center lane, which becomes a second through lane. This is, in effect, avoiding a right turn only lane when going straight through. The overhead lane signs are our clue as to how the roadway is set up.
How much farther do we have? Up there, 3 miles.
Next we turn left from James Street onto Queen Street. Notice that we turn into the lane nearer the center of the street. In Pennsylvania and many other states, when you turn left onto a multi-lane street, you must enter that street in the leftmost lane, that is legal for your direction of travel. Then, if you wish, transition over to the right as traffic permits. However, when we have other traffic behind us, we often will head directly for the right lane to avoid being caught in the leftmost lane or between lanes. Traffic in our lane is stopped, so we also stop rather than pass on the right. We don't know when the column might begin to move again, or whether any driver might decide to escape the delay by turning right. We approach the signal on Queen Street at Liberty Street, where there is heavy right-turning traffic but no dedicated right-turn lane. So we move farther left in our lane to discourage right hooks and as a clear signal that we are going straight through. Once past the intersection, we move back to the right. We enter a marked bike lane that begins on McGovern Avenue and continues around a corner onto Fruitville Pike and across the railroad bridge. We ride farther left to avoid the debris and sand that remain from the last snowstorm. When the lane is clean, we ride slightly farther to the right. After the road and bike lane crest the bridge and start down the other side, notice that the bike lane striping ends temporarily and resumes maybe 50 feet later on the left side of a right turn only lane that leads to Keller Avenue. We're about to pass a sign that says "Begin right turn lane, yield to bikes." That tells motorists that they are crossing the bike lane to get into the right turn lane and must yield to any bikes in the bike lane. The bike lane is placed correctly on the left side of the right turn lane, but if you wanted to turn left onto Manheim Pike, you'd have to leave the bike lane and move into the left turn only lane. Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, make a box turn. Go to the far right corner of the intersection, turn your bike to the left, and then cross on the green light. Here's a typical section of Fruitville Pike with 4 11-foot lanes and 4-foot shoulders and curves. Always ride at least 2 feet from any feature at the edge of the road that could hurt you. Ditch, trees, mailboxes, anything. The technical term is shy distance. Fruitville Pike widens as it approaches Route 30. A ramp to the Route 30 eastbound frontage road diverges at a very shallow angle. Traffic entering this ramp often does not signal because it is such a minor change of direction. So, to protect ourselves, we scan, signal if necessary, and clearly move left to line up with the rightmost through lane. This communicates our intention to continue straight, and anyone wanting to use the ramp can pass us on our right. We're stopped for the red light at the Route 30 westbound frontage road. We don't pass stopped traffic on the right because the 4 feet between the curb and the edge line disappears beyond the light, making it harder for traffic in our lane to get by. Most of this traffic has already passed us once, so rather than force the drivers to do that again in a narrow configuration, we simply stay behind them. We've stopped behind a car signaling a right turn at Roseville Road. Even though there is room to pass on the right, we call it filtering forward, we don't do it because that car might end up at the intersection at the same time as we do. Also, there are cars in front of this one, any of which could be turning, whether they have signaled or not. So be safe and courteous. We wait our turn in line. We're starting to merge left because the curb lane becomes a right turn only lane at the next intersection, just around the bend. The right turn lane leads into a park, so it is not heavily used, while the through lane to our left is very heavily used. Sometimes we're not able to merge into the through lane, and if the right turn lane is empty, we'll ride in its extreme left side, practically on the line between the two lanes, as you see us doing here. While technically that's not legal, it's not dangerous because there is no right turning traffic behind us, and we show courtesy to the drivers going through by enabling them to pass us without having to move left. However, if we see or expect any right turning traffic in the curb lane, we negotiate our way into the through lane. We turn left into Bill's neighborhood.
Hi guys.
We greet some children on their way home from school. And we pull into Bill's driveway to end our riding for the day.